The world's highest security prison, CECOT, the most evil are kept here. In a country where violence was once a way of life, where every corner of the streets was a battlefield between brutal gangs, one decision would change the fate of El Salvador forever. That decision was the creation of CECOT, a prison unlike any other, a fortress where the most dangerous criminals, the ruthless gang leaders, and the most terrifying men would be locked away forever. But while the world watched, there was one question that lingered. Could this extreme measure truly restore peace, or would it cost the country everything it stood for? The birth of a nightmare. For years, El Salvador had been held captive by its own gangs. The infamous MS-13 and Barrio 18 were not mere criminal groups. They were entire empires of violence. They controlled neighborhoods, ran extortion rings, dealt in drugs and weapons, and even carried out gruesome murders to instill fear. The government fought back, but every victory seemed temporary. Each time a gang leader was captured, they continued to run operations from their prison cells, commanding their underlings from the most secure areas of the nation's overcrowded jails. Then, in 2023, the country decided it was time to break the chains of organized crime. President Nayib Bukele, desperate for a solution, initiated an unprecedented step: the creation of CECOT, Centro de Confinamiento del Terrorismo. This would be no ordinary prison. It was designed as the ultimate high-security facility, a place where the leaders of the gangs would be completely severed from their power. But what would it take to imprison the most dangerous criminals in the world? The government didn't just build a jail, they built a fortress. The prison that cannot be escaped. CECOT is not just a place for punishment, it's a place for total control. The prison's design ensures that inmates are completely isolated from the outside world. For many of its residents, this would be the end of their influence, their ability to orchestrate violence, and their power to instill fear in the hearts of the people. High-tech surveillance cameras cover every inch of the facility, and AI systems monitor the movements and actions of every inmate. Military-grade security surrounds the prison, with armed soldiers stationed around the clock. The prison itself is designed to ensure that no inmate communicates with the outside world, no matter how powerful they once were. Inside, there are no windows, no family visits, and no phone calls, only cold concrete, steel bars, and the sound of silence. Each cell is a bare, windowless box, designed to strip away the sense of time and connection. Inmates live in complete isolation, their movements carefully controlled. They have no access to social media, no way to send messages. Gang leaders who once held entire cities in fear from their prison cells now find themselves powerless. The most notorious criminals in El Salvador, the ones responsible for unimaginable violence, are now living in a controlled nightmare, where every breath they take is monitored. But for the people of El Salvador, this is a necessary sacrifice. The streets are quieter now. Murders are down, extortion has decreased. The government claims victory over the gangs, and for many Salvadorans, this new prison represents the end of terror, the cost of safety. However, not everyone sees CECOT as a triumph. While the prison has undoubtedly curbed crime, there are growing concerns about its human rights implications. Critics argue that the extreme nature of the facility borders on inhumane treatment, with inmates being subjected to harsh conditions that many say amount to psychological torture. Human rights organizations, including Amnesty International, have denounced CECOT, claiming that the country's state of emergency led to the arbitrary arrest of thousands of people. Many of those arrested were never given a trial, and some may have been imprisoned without reason. Families have been torn apart, not knowing where their loved ones have gone or whether they will ever be freed. Inside the prison, the lack of due process has also come under fire. Prisoners who were once gang leaders are now treated with the utmost severity. But what about those who were simply caught in the wave of arrests? What about those who have not been convicted of any crime? International organizations question whether the balance between safety and justice has been lost. For all its success in eliminating gang control, CECOT has led to widespread fear of government overreach. Can a society truly be safe when it sacrifices its basic rights and freedoms in the name of security? And if the government continues to expand its use of extreme measures, will El Salvador risk becoming a state where freedom is sacrificed for peace? The prisoners, the most evil in the world. The inmates at CECOT are the most dangerous criminals El Salvador has ever known. They are the gang leaders, the men responsible for countless murders, extortions, and acts of violence that have destroyed entire communities. Some of them once held uncontested power over entire neighborhoods, commanding from behind bars as they orchestrated their criminal empires. Many of them were once untouchable, feared by everyone. But now, in CECOT, they are cut off from the world. They have no contact with their gangs, no ability to issue orders. They are, for the first time, completely powerless. The question that remains is, will this total isolation truly break their hold on society? Will this be the final chapter in the war against gangs, or will these men eventually find a way to reclaim their power, even from inside their prison cells? The impact on El Salvador and the world. Since the opening of CECOT, crime rates in El Salvador have dramatically dropped. Homicides are down, gang-related violence has decreased, and businesses are beginning to thrive in areas that were once controlled by criminals. For the first time in decades, citizens feel a sense of security. The government has celebrated its success, and President Bukele has gained massive support for his tough stance on crime. But this success has come at a cost. Thousands of people have been imprisoned, some without charge, others with minimal evidence. While El Salvador may have found a way to reduce violence, there are still questions about the long-term implications of such an approach. Could CECOT's harsh tactics inspire other countries to follow suit, potentially leading to mass incarceration across the world? The future of CECOT is uncertain. Will other nations facing similar crime problems adopt such measures, or will they push back against the extreme methods used in El Salvador? Will CECOT serve as a model for eliminating gang violence, or will it be remembered as a terrifying glimpse into a future where safety comes at the expense of human dignity? The future of justice. As El Salvador moves forward, the question remains, what is the cost of safety? The world may never know the full answer, but one thing is clear. CECOT is a warning, a sign that when pushed to the brink, a country will do whatever it takes to take back control. The most evil criminals may be locked away for now, but the battle between justice and security is far from over. El Salvador's future will depend on whether it can find a way to restore peace without losing its soul.